This one's a bit of a more of a rose-tinted kind of question. You were speaking about the camaraderie that you guys had backstage. How do you feel about the change in attitudes, or if there has been one, between when you guys and your peers were around, when you were backstage, on stage, compared to the more business-minded, the more aggressive model that it's kind of become now?
You know, I mean, I go backstage all the time. I interview the winners. I interview the losers. And, you know, they love you when you're saying something good about them, and they hate you and won't talk to you when you say something bad about them. I mean, one of the guys coming up, I praised how good he was. He didn't win the overall, but he won the class. I said, you're going to be good one day. And he got there, and some other business was going on, and he decided not to talk to me because he wasn't affiliated with the company that I was working for. And the people around him don't want him talking to the magazine that I'm working with as well. And it's a shame because we didn't have those differences coming up. I mean, when we were backstage, we were able to approach each other, although the majority of the time we kept to ourselves because we're all fighting for the same prize. Now, if you go backstage, you very rarely see the camaraderie. Cedric McMillan's one of those guys that he gets it. You know, he realizes this is going to be over one day, so he has fun with it. But there's a lot of the bodybuilders in this economy that want nothing to do with each other because they're fighting for the prize. There's a lot of animosity. I see that. And there's not a lot of unity in terms of doing things together afterwards. Like when I was competing, I was doing muscle camps with the bodybuilders. I can call Chris, Kevin, Flex. We'd all do our muscle camps and go back and get ready for competitions. And today, the guys keep to themselves. Their social media is what they focus on. It's their space, and they don't want it invaded. So I don't see a whole lot of camaraderie amongst the guys as much.
Yeah, it's definitely a different thing. Like I was able to, you know, we helping each other put Protan on when we, especially on the road. Kevin would come over to your room and, hey, can you put Protan on my back? I don't think there's a lot of that stuff like that going on nowadays. You know,
remember the story, Ronnie Coleman went to Flex Wheeler's room in England to ask Flex a few questions about what he was doing. Flex told him and shared that information. Ronnie went home with it, ran with it, and then leapfrogged over all of us and beat us for like 8 years in a row.
Started using the same.
Ruined it for us, doing the same thing.
Chad Nichols was telling what Chad did for him, and he said, oh, maybe Chad would do that for me. And
then Chad became his guru, and it was over for all of us.
The hell?
The game's changed.
I was good when he had the little legs. When he had the little legs and he had put both of the legs together when he hit the last sprint. I like that, Ronnie.
Yeah, Ronnie Coleman, he changed the game and ruined a lot of dreams for a lot of us. But even still, Ronnie was cool people. We don't see that as much today. It's a little bit more. I think the guys will regret it when their careers are over because they don't know each other. They may be traveling and competing, but they're not spending quality time, and it's going to be too bad because we've been there. You want to know where you're going? Ask the guys that are on their way back.
I thought Dorian was pretty crafty, you know, backstage because he wouldn't talk to he wouldn't hardly talk to anybody at all. Even if he liked us or didn't like us, he just didn't talk. He didn't have nothing to say. I remember one time he had to come looking for me because I was wearing his shoes backstage. So he left his shoes on the side. So we had the same pair of shoes and the same size feet. And I took off in his shoes, and he was looking for me about 10 minutes backstage.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, hi guys. Thanks for sharing your knowledge with us today. What I wanted to ask is what you mentioned before about training. Over time, you learn to sort of train smarter, and you realise that you sort of, to get longevity out of your body, you don't necessarily have to lift really extreme weights. So if you train like that, do you think it's going to just allow you to continue training long-term throughout your life? Like it's a crucial thing?
Yeah, I think you'll have more longevity throughout training. Plus, the muscle itself, you know, if you're doing super heavy weight, a lot of times people are doing bench press, and if you actually look at the muscle itself, it's not even really contracting fully. It's not really stretching and getting that movement in the muscle, but they're actually training it. And then they're shortening their reps and more and more and more. But you know, a lot of it is because they're training with a lot of egotistical manners, too heavy a weight for what they're trying to do, because you're not going to get bigger just because the weight is heavy. And I think that's just a misconception of training with weights, and the more weight I can put on, even from pumping iron, seeing Lou Ferrigno say, I want more weight. You know, I want to beat him, you know, that stuff. it just don't happen like that though. If you get more, and I wasn't gonna say I wasn't gonna talk like Lou, but you know how he said it. But yeah, that's just not the way it happens. But if you really, if you take your ego out of the training, you can utilize that primary muscle and put most of the pressure on that primary muscle you'll be at a greater advantage.
And I can tell you, in retirement, I flipped my switch the day I decided I wasn't going to compete anymore, because then I had nothing to prove. When you spend your whole life looking in the mirror and trying to get validation for what you look like from other people, mostly strangers, and finally you don't have to do that anymore, your training mentality adjusts with it. I no longer had to go in and try to squat 500 pounds or bench press 400 pounds or put myself through the ringer where I could potentially get in harm's way, because now who am I doing that for? Ronnie Coleman's different. Ronnie Coleman said it's what got him out of bed. You know, training, fighting with the weights, that's his passion. And it's great. We always say as athletes, you know, if you die doing what you love, it's a great death. But I'm not going to die lifting weights. You know, I don't want to be in the squat rack when I go check out.
When's the last time you squatted, Sean?
I squatted in 2002. I very rarely train my legs. I train them a little bit. I stretch them more than anything else. But I don't look at myself. Chris is always trying to see what I look like. But I
try to catch it with his shirt when he's changing shirts in the back.
There's nothing there, okay? I don't. My vanity went out.
Actually, you don't look too bad, man. Seriously.
Thank you, Chris.
I saw you at the what's that hotel? The Ritz. I saw him at the Ritz, getting there, do a little swan dive.
I actually got in the pool. He didn't go in the water. He's the stereotypical black guys don't swim type thing. I was on the diving team. But
I was on a diving team in boys club.
You were?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did a half gainer. That was it.
We could do that again. I got a pool at my hotel right around the corner. For me, my economy as a bodybuilder changed when I decided I was no longer going to compete. So then it became fitness. It became exercise, which Arnold speaks about. And you can exercise your entire life, but you can't. You can say you can bodybuild your entire life, but you put yourself in harm's way every time you go in there to make those demands on your body, especially if you take time off. I took almost 9 months off last year. This time last year, in February, I didn't train until this January. So I just barely been in the gym for 3 months. It's maintenance training. I get in there 3 or 4 days a week. It's not what gets me up out of bed every day. I'm not a fanatic in that way. There's a lot of life that I missed while I was professionally bodybuilding, and I try to make up for that. But you have to have a balance. I find exercise and other things. I ride horses. I swim. I walk, take long walks on the beach.
I like golf nowadays. I've been
Golf
getting
as
into
well.
golf again.
Yeah, you have to have a balance. But as a bodybuilder, if you're going to be in the game, you got to be in there 100%. In retirement, you got to consider there's a long life to live. I don't want to be Ronnie Coleman in a wheelchair. Ronnie did call me, by the way. I made a post.
Did.
Yeah, he called me up and said, "Hey, man, next time you want to talk some bullshit,
Oh yeah, I got that.
call me
I heard
first."
that message. I heard that.
I said, "Well, I think Ronnie Coleman's going to come looking for me in his wheelchair." I'm like, "Is he going to the Arnold Classic? 'Cause I'm going to be there." I called Dave. Dave's our online editor at Muscular Development. I said, "What do I do with this? Do I call him back and apologize? It's Ronnie Coleman. I'm not afraid of Ronnie Coleman in a wheelchair. He's in a wheelchair. What's he going to do?"
Put a stopper on.
I think I made what pissed him off. I made the analogy about Muhammad Ali sticking around for one fight too many. Muhammad Ali's training partner used to be Larry Holmes, and he used to beat the crap out of Larry Holmes. And before the Parkinson's diagnosis took place, he decided, okay, towards the end of my career, like in 1980, I'm going to fight Larry Holmes, and I'm going to be the heavyweight champion for the 4th time or whatever it was. And Larry Holmes at that time was like the Mike Tyson, and he put a whooping on Muhammad Ali, and Muhammad Ali's corner, you know, Angelo Dundee, stop the fight, you remember that?
Yeah.
You're a boxing aficionado, but it was an embarrassing moment for Muhammad. As great as he was, no one ever wanted to see that. And so here I am watching Ronnie doing these amazing lifts after he has double hip surgery. He's lifting in the gym, and he's training like a Mr. Olympia competitor. I'm thinking, to what end?
I don't know why the heavy shrugs.
Yeah, he's throwing around all this weight. So what happened?
What the hell?
Here's what happened. He had back surgery, and he broke some screws that were already in there. So your career's over. You got the 8 Sandows. You got 10 kids running around, little ones as well, and you're in there, you know, doing this to yourself. So it's hard to be sympathetic. So I have a thread talking about, making the analogy about Muhammad Ali getting beat up by Larry Holmes, and it should never happen. And Ronnie, what the hell are you talking? Next time you want to talk bullshit, call me up. So I said, well, you catch me if you can, because I'm going to keep talking bullshit. But look,
So
if
that's
you
what
go out,
happened.
if that's how he wants to go out, that's how he wants to go out.
So he broke the screws that was already.
Broke the screws, and God bless him.
Man.
He made it to Ohio, and he got his award. And I couldn't help it in the context of that weekend, because 2001 was the year I retired. Ronnie won the Arnold Classic that year, and here we are, 2016, and he's got a walker and a wheelchair, and he's getting his Hall of Fame induction. I'm thinking, that could have all been avoided. You know, you're not training for the Mr. Olympia. You know, you have life after. So, in my mindset, I've got to be mindful every time I go in the gym that I don't want to be training with some little kid. I don't want to go in there and try to be on Chris Cormier's training cycle, because I've been there and I'll get hurt. Because in our minds, we can still do it. Just like Muhammad Ali thought, I'll beat the crap out of Larry Holmes. I did it every time we used to spar. And that'll be the day that I go in and I wind up in a wheelchair. So I've really tapered back my aggression in the gym.
I wouldn't hurt you, Sean.
You couldn't hurt me if you wanted to.
I would
Chris.
not hurt you.
Chris got his third place medal. Let's give Chris a round of applause. 1999. He was third place at Mr. Olympia. We're going to give him another one today. Chris Cormier, you beat me. Chris did the unthinkable in 1999, but I found victory in other ways, right? That year, 1999, I was fifth place, and it wasn't my first time, by the way. But that routine's got
I was
me
third.
That has me 7 million views from that weekend in Las Vegas. 7 million.
I thought
Can
I
you
had the
imagine
best
having
routine.
7 million YouTube views of your posing
Did you
routine?
see me shaking my ass?
Yeah, that's why you don't get 7 million views. But anyways, yeah, we had a good run. So I know I'm not the only one that's hungry. We'll take a couple of more questions. Here we go.
Sean and Chris, back in the day, celebrity and fame seemed to be earned through achievement and endeavour, but it seems that these days when you go to the Olympia or these expos, some guy has a 3-hour wait in a queue of people just by virtue of the fact that they have a YouTube channel.
Right.
Like, what do you think about how that's affecting the sport and just your own personal views on, because where the attention goes, the money flows basically, and it seems like the athletes aren't really reaping the rewards.
Well, let me tell you something. I think it's actually great, because as an individual, we're a brand, we're a product, I am Sean Ray Productions. I don't have a manager, I do all my own stuff. And when I see these guys on YouTube getting 5-10 million views, and you got that Dana Lynn Bailey line that goes out and around the block or whatever, and then I walk in and nobody recognizes me, I check my ego at the door. I've been there. I was there before the internet and before YouTube and all that other stuff, when you had to wait for the magazine to come out to find out what the guy looked like or where they placed. I think the older we get, the more comfortable we are being able to meander through an audience and kind of appreciate what's there. But I have mad respect for somebody that can get 10 million people to follow them because they're showing their butt shots. Or because they're doing some crazy style of training, and people do. They stand in that queue and they want to meet that person. We had to rely on magazines. We had to wait for this guy to write an article, and hopefully he's writing what we said, and hopefully they put pictures. We had no control over what pictures that accompanied the article, so we didn't have control of ourselves, and now the athletes today control what they project. You don't have to go through an editor. You don't have to wait for something. It comes out in real time. So to each his own. If you're able to build up a following and you got people that are willing to stand in line to get a handshake or a t-shirt or whatever, and you got Hall of Fame bodybuilders walking by, and the physique guys and classic guys and the bikini girls don't know who the hell we are. Look, we were there. I knew Joe Weider. I was on Joe Weider's payroll for 17 years. If not for Joe Weider, you don't have these guys on YouTube and social media. So it was a different time, and we're moving and changing so fast. I walk through that thing, and I don't know half the people that people are standing in line to shake their hands for, but for me, they get mad respect because they did something right. And for the athlete to have control over their career that way, it's a whole lot better than when we were under contract with Weider, and the magazines had control over our image and what we said and how much of what we said and what type of headlines that they use and what type of pictures. Now you go in, you don't even need a website. You have your Facebook page, your Instagram page, and either people like you or they don't.
Yeah, you had to have you had to be some type of champion to be in the magazine during our era. And now, you could just do something at home, and like you said, some of these people, I don't even know what they did or how they got there. They have a big line, but you do kind of think like, but you're not a real one. You're not a.
That's why they call them the real deal. You're not a real paper champion.
You never exactly.
I think it's cool that they can take control over it. I'd have more power to them because whatever it is they're selling or marketing and somebody wants to buy it, they're going to line up in it. And that's where I bring it back to me calling myself a physique artist. If you came to see Sean Ray, you weren't going to see a 600-pound bodybuilder that squats 7,000 pounds. You kind of knew what you were going to get. With these guys on YouTube and Instagram and all that stuff, I mean, I know. I have a 10-year-old daughter that's an actress and singer, and she's getting thousands of dollars to do tweets and all this other. I'm thinking she's got 1,000,001 followers at 10 years old. Somebody wants to pay her money to do a tweet, more power to them. And I see these bodybuilders and physique girls and bikini chicks that don't have to get up here to be validated. They don't have to be champions, and they can sit at home and create all that stuff. I mean, that takes some ingenuity, and you got to give that some respect as well. So I have no ill feelings towards those guys.
I respect some of the physiques these girls are putting together. Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
especially in Brazil, right? You like girls, Chris?
Yeah.
Okay,
Sean.
go ahead.
But I'm just saying, like, the physiques changed over the years, right? Like, good Lord, you
Well,
women.
women change too, yes.
They be working that booty.
Chris is a
Working that
booty guy. Be careful, guys. Okay. Any other? We got like time for 2 more questions or so. I see
Sure.
a couple hands over here. But you
Yeah,
have no mic.
Sean and Chris. In regards to all the bodybuilders nowadays, do you think that guys like Big Ramy are going to be the future of bodybuilding, or guys like Cody Montgomery? Do you think somewhere between the 250, 280 pound or 300 plus? And then also in regards with that, do you think that Australia is going to see the likes of 212 pound competitors, the physique girls, and some of those different divisions?
Well, they already are. I mean, Australia's putting themselves on the map. What Josh did in the last 6 months is put Australia on the map. Nobody really was in Australia doing anything on the level that Josh won 2 shows last year. He won the San Remo and the Lou Ferrigno show.
Lou Ferrigno. Yeah, I kind of worked in the team of some of these guys that you mentioned, Cody. I've been working with him off and on
Sergio.
since he was 17. Sergio Olivier Jr. I'm his current trainer. I feel like the next generation is going to be pretty substantial. I think Cody is definitely going to be a future Mr. Olympia. I would like him to just take his time now. Okay, you stepped on the stage with the big guys. Now let's just focus back on the muscle and trying to perfect that body as much as you can. Not just try to eat your way to a championship. And also, Big Ramy is I don't know, when I first saw him, I was like pretty amazed with how wide he was at his height. I think he had like the width of like a
Mack truck.
Yeah, it was just it's something you see. Like Paul Dillette had these broad shoulders like that, but he was so much shorter. I'm actually going to be going out to Kuwait and working with the Oxygen team next month. So I mean, who knows? I just feel like. I think definitely Cody would probably be a future Miss Olympia.
Well, yeah, he's got time on his side. It
For
was
sure.
2021.
He can outweigh all these guys.
But here's the caveat, Chris. The caveat is potential is only one thing. It depends on what he wants to do. We don't know that he has that same mindset to, number one, play the waiting game. Number
Right.
two, to understand what losing is about. So you've seen some losers come up here and they just never recover. Berto Fox was one of them. Mike Mincer, 1980 Mr. Olympia, he was one of them. Losing for some people is devastating. It changes who they are.
Also,
and they fall out of love with what they were once in love with.
Also, Rich Gaspari was a young, great champion at 22 years old, being a Miss Olympia. He was like second in Olympia.
Second
at the
3
time.
times, yeah.
Yeah, but I actually competed against Rich in the Night of Champions, and he was not, in top form. I don't even really call it me beating him, but he was in the show that I actually won. So but he just wasn't the same Rich Gaspari. So you never know if you shoot it out hard and fast at such a young age, are you going to be able to carry on into your 30s the same way?
We've seen some guys with potential not realize. Matt Mendenhall, he probably had the best genetics of anybody coming up right behind Bob Paris, and he never even got his pro card. Roy Littlemeyer was
Right.
another one.
Yeah.
So while Cody's got potential, Dallas McCarver, Big Ramy, Big Ramy's already here. We're not waiting for him to arrive. He was 5th in the Olympia, won the Arnold Classic in Brazil last year. He's already here. Cody's serving notice right now, and of course Josh is already on the map. He's got a couple pro wins. like basketball, when Magic Johnson and Larry Bird and Isaiah Thomas and Charles Barkley and all those guys were leaving, we were wondering where the next wave was going to come. It came through. Allen Iverson came through, and Kobe Bryant came through. I mean, eventually they arrive. In bodybuilding, it's different because we are a sport of evolution, and it is changing. And whether or not we're going to still have those big, massive bodybuilders coming up in the next couple of years, I don't know. I mean, Dallas McCarver's a 6 foot, 300-pound bodybuilder. Big Rami's 5'9" and is 300 pounds. So they're kind of leading the way for the next generation to come up. But anybody at any time can come out of nowhere. Mind you, I was telling you I got third in the 1990 Mr. Olympia. It was at that time that Dorian Yates was winning the New York Pro Championships for the first time coming out of England. I'd guest posed with him in 1988 in England, and he was a big fat white guy that I didn't think twice about. Lo and behold, he became my arch rival and nemesis that would stop me from becoming Mr. Olympia. If not for Dorian Yates, Sean Ray could have won the Olympia in 94 and 96. And they said, you know, like Ronnie Coleman, we were taking turns beating up on Ronnie Coleman. In 1992, Ronnie Coleman was last. Yeah. Ronnie Coleman was the guy that was like helping bring the weights backstage to help the top tier guys, and 5 short years later, he was wind up beating all of us.
Yeah, I knew Ronnie when he was an introvert. He used to sit in the back of the bus and not say anything, and then all of a sudden he starts screaming lightweight.
He couldn't believe he was there, but you don't know where that next guy's going to come from. Ronnie was the back of the pack, and he's a true success story. Dead last to first place, the greatest bodybuilder of all time on the Olympia stage, arguably against Lee Haney, where they both have 8. But you don't know where they're going to come from, and you also don't know what their mindsets are. So while there's potential and there's youth, they could be here today and gone tomorrow.
Yeah, you never know the trials and tribulations of life. That's one thing I tell people. Like, I didn't stop when I wanted to. I thought I was going to be carrying on, and I had some severe injury, things come up in my spine, and next thing you know, I was here, and it went there. I thought I was still doing the Olympia, like, Chris, you can't even walk right now.
Yeah, Chris was like in the hospital like 8 months. Were you in the hospital for 8 months?
6 months, yeah, and I was in the coma for over a month. I woke up, and they was telling me what happened.
You just came out of the coma like yesterday, right?
Shut up, man.
At Hawaii?
This guy
had a tough road.
Still,
tough road.
From a teenager all the way to this day, he's still giving me the business.
He's easy picking.
Still.
Yes. One last question for the night, guys. He said I had the best ass in the game. Thank you. I heard you the first time. Thank you very much. I didn't like to show my ass, but my abs were nice too.
What was your diet like? What did you do about carbs?
Yeah. My diet wasn't one that was on record that you can chart how many calories I ate. I never counted calories. Again, I was that guy that didn't have the science behind him. I wasn't Rich Gaspari or Labrada that can tell you I ate 3,000 calories a day and I burned 500 calories. I didn't weigh my food. I didn't measure my food. I ate when I was hungry. And I ate the bodybuilding foods that were available. I used the mirror as my guide. So when you say, what did I eat? I ate probably the same thing that Chris ate.
Dude, that's exactly the way I did my training, because it's like if you look in the mirror, you could tell if you're under eating or you ate too much. Look at your stomach, look at the muscle, look how full you are. Look how you only know how you feel inside. Like someone can't tell me, a guru can't tell me how I feel inside. I know how hungry I am, or I know if I'm a little frail feeling. But someone looking at you, it's hard to be like, it's easier for you, I feel, to look in the mirror and see what you need.
Absolutely.
And that's why people say, what's your macros? And it's like, dude,
too scientific.
It's like we look better than people count these macros.
Yeah, what is a macro
When
anyways?
It wasn't like, we was like, what the hell?
I mean, garbage in, garbage out.
I don't understand that, man. It's like,
if
just
you
eat
put-
low-fat food, train hard, do cardio, and you're going to be in shape in a matter of weeks. How many weeks it is?
Keep it
No
simple.
matter what, you're going to be in shape if you control the fats and you eat the proteins and enough protein and carbohydrates, and you can go low in carbs, and you're going to be in shape.
Yeah, I could follow a written diet, but what I look like is not necessarily going to be what someone scripted for me to look like. My training one day is going to be great. My cardio is going to be great. The next day it might not be so much, but I eat the bodybuilding foods that were provided. Okay, I got to eat protein, carbohydrates, and vegetables. I pick what that is.
And the cardio. How was
the
the cardio?
cardio. I was the cardio king.
But now people are like, how much cardio should I do? I'm like, I don't know. It's like no one told me how much cardio I should do. I just did it. Just like burn fat.
For me, I did 45 minutes in the morning and 45 minutes at night. It sounded excessive. It's an hour and a half of cardio, but it was something that I'm trying to burn fat. So that was just part of my workout. It wasn't something where I'm going to lose muscle. Oh, you're going to lose muscle if you do that much cardio. But I think it attributed to me maintaining my body fat, staying close to my target weight, and being able to train and see my muscles
Sean was
year-round.
anabolically high.
Anabolically high. Is that what it was called? He couldn't keep up. He couldn't keep up with the Sean Ray workout. Trust me.
No,
We'll do it again before I leave here.
Yeah,
I'm gonna make sure we get that rematch.
He does spin around. You go around from machine to machine.
Yeah. I moved around a lot.
Jackrabbit.
But everyone's different. What I will leave you with this is that, like art, everyone has their own approach. I mean, I can hire the coach and he can direct me to do whatever he thinks visually I should be doing, but then I lose control of my artwork. So I own my space. I cooked my food. I knew how to cook. I had to learn as a bodybuilder. My mom wasn't going to separate 12 egg whites and throw away the yolk. She thought I was crazy, right? I'm wasting food. But I knew I needed the protein. Peeling the skin off the chicken, my mom thought I was nuts. I'm wasting food. So when you're dealing with people that don't understand what you're trying to do, you really do have to try to find a way to self-educate yourself. So I read, I watched, I absorbed like-minded people. And through trial and error, you kind of find out what you should eat and what not to eat.
We have one last question, guys.
Yes.
Good.
Hi, gentlemen. With your time in bodybuilding, I just wanted to know what's some of the worst injuries you've probably seen or come across yourselves?
Chris can answer that.
No, the worst I've seen was John Pierre Fuchs when he did that heavy squat for a photo shoot. That's the one thing, Chris Lund would really push us to go heavier, in the photo shoots and stuff. And a lot of times you're in tip-top shape when you're trying to do some of these lifts, and you're not very protected when it comes to injury with the heavy weights. And that's what I was telling you. Like, if you had lighter weight, you're not going to just come crushing down, and both your legs are split open with your kneecaps showing in the squat. And that definitely is bound to happen with that.
Well,
that size of
and the
weight.
story he's talking about happened in my gym. The photo shoots were done where I trained at. I didn't own the gym. I trained there. But Jean-Pierre Fuchs was from Switzerland, and he was one of the biggest things after Dorian Yates. Problem is he had some midsection issues, but he was a big, humongous, strong bodybuilder, and he was routinely squatting 7 or 8 plates. The problem is he was getting ready for a show, which you typically drop, you come off the weight a little bit, but at the encouragement of the photographer to make the shot look good, he put the weight on that he normally uses, and he wasn't afraid of the weight. It was in the Smith machine area. And he went down to do the squat, both knees were wrapped, and he fell backwards, actually, and it kind of, if you could put your heels underneath your butt, the thighs pulled away from the kneecaps this way, and the weight was stuck on his back, and he kept the camera going.
And they kept taking the photos.
Took the pictures, and you can see it. So you can imagine when I'm doing my training, going into that gym after that, I'm ever so mindful of what can happen when you take your eye off the prize. But I was never influenced by a photographer who wanted to get the shot or a training partner that happened to be stronger. You have to know your limitations. But injuries are bound to happen. I can tell you towards the end of my career, I was more aware of getting hurt and a little bit afraid of the weights at times. One time I was doing the stiff-legged deadlifts, and in doing the hamstrings, I felt a little slight, it felt like a rubber band was popping. I just barely felt it. I dropped the weight. Another time I was doing long pulley rows, and it felt like my lower back was separating from my hips, and I dropped the weight. Those little things were indicators that I'm training too heavy, and maybe I'm staying in it too long. So I quit before any injuries could happen.
I mean, one time a freak injury with me was I was actually in Sydney, and I was just training some clients. I had 3 people going in a circuit, and I was just hanging, stretching. You see a lot of people just hang and stretch like that. And I felt like someone struck a match to my tricep, and my triceps just started burning. And there was this little fiber starting to pull and separate and tear. And I just let go, and I dropped down. It just took a little while to get that healed up. But that was just hanging from your stretching your lats. I'm like,
inevitably, those are hazards of the job. I mean, Branch Warren slipped, on the concrete, how they paint the yellow on the thing to slow down. It was raining, and he slipped and fell and tore his quadricep. Injuries for bodybuilders can happen at any given time, and your career can change as a result of that. So we're more prone to probably getting hurt as we age, which is why Dexter Jackson continues to defy Father Time for us, second in the Mr. Olympia at 45, 46 years old, and he doesn't look like he's ever missed a day in the gym. It's amazing. But the further away we get from the gym, the more cautious we are in the gym.
Yeah, I want to thank you guys all for coming. If you want to get in touch with me, the grind.guru, you can.
Chris is the salesman.
I
Go
can,
ahead. What is it called? The grind.
The grind.guru. www.thegrind.guru, or hit me at RD Team Training.
What do we get there? There's like lessons, diets. What's on that?
Diets and personal diets, personal training systems, and just teaching the mind-muscle connection, how to utilize it. Have you videotape your workouts, and then analyze it with you and tell you the do's and don'ts and ways to move your body, your elbow, or positioning, all that to get the most out of your physique. So get in touch.
You know, Chris and I talk all around the world. What's amazing is not one female asks us a question up here, and there's a lot of girls in here. Not one girl has a question.
I gave you guys a great
Here's one right here.
too.
Stand up and be counted and represent for the Aussies. A typical female question, right? Only a girl would say, how do you pick your posing trunks and what color? And
Go ahead, Sean.
back when I competed, this is long, probably when you were just a little kid, there wasn't so many people out there making posing trunks. There was like one company. It was called Nitwit. It was right around the corner from Gold's Gym. And of course, they were in competition with Chris Dickerson, who had his own posing trunk line, and Andreas Kalling from Sweden. He had his own posing trunk line. We had very limited options. You were either wearing theirs or you weren't wearing any at all. Now there's a lot out there, and they're very expensive at times, I guess. But I never looked at another man's posing trunks to figure out like what's the color or the fabric. Chris gets in like the glitter and the shiny, the lights and the what is
I went for the bling.
The bling, what is that called?
And I had the velvet.
He's a little bit different than I am.
I like the red velvet.
He likes the crushed velvet.
Yeah.
Well, that was a very good female question. Is that all we got from the ladies here? What color trunks?
Well, that goes a
Here's
lot
one
with
over
your
here.
color of your skin, I think, also.
One last question, folks.
Yeah.
Here's one right here. I didn't do cheat meals, but you can clearly look at Chris and see that he did his entire career, which is why he only beat me once. How many times you compete with me? 10 years,
Couple
I guess it was, a couple
times.
times?
No, but you know what? I would wait from, I would say, okay, I would give myself from 12-week period to 2 weeks. I say, if I go all the way to 2 weeks without having anything, then I will let myself have some pizza and cake or whatever. And then I take a couple bites, I feel guilty, get swollen, go back into the gym, and that's gone in a couple of days, or some yogurt here and there. Yeah. But I was a stickler on just like keeping my nose down, just working, wait till you get in shape, you know. I was a little different from Chris. I didn't crave yogurt on the Olympia diet. But I did crave salt. Salt was one of those things that I would eliminate. Food. I didn't eat breads. I mean, there's a lot of things I took out. So a cheat meal for me was like putting steak sauce on my steak, putting a little bit of butter on my baked potato. I would still stay with the foods that were making me look the way that I did, but I just wanted to have some flavor to it. So ketchup, mustard, steak sauce became cheat food for me. But I didn't crave like a pizza because I knew that wasn't going to help me become Mr. Olympia. So my discipline level was very high. And it came from the fact that I saw my competition. I knew what I had to compete in. I know what Dorian Yates looked like. So for me, this piece of pizza wasn't going to help me get there. He used to eat a lot of hamburgers. I don't feel guilty. He ate a lot of hamburgers. He'd go to Carl's Jr. I'm thinking, what are you doing? What's that Carl's? What nutritional value does a hamburger with cheese have? It was flame broiled. Yeah, okay. He didn't know how to cook. I would cook my food, but I would add in the things that I would take out from my diet, but it still was pretty much on my I like salads with blue cheese dressing. It's not a radical departure from a contest diet, but those are little nuances just to get the flavor in my food, because as we diet, the flavor is the first thing to go. So we would use onions, bell peppers, mushrooms, sodium, herbal seasonings, little tricks of the trade to try to have some sort of flavor. But for me, just adding those flavors back in was more like a cheat meal for me and a reward. So, speaking of food, are you providing us with lunch today?
We'll get you some lunch, guys. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you guys for coming.
Put your hands together for
It's
Chris
a blast.
and Sean Ray. Thank you very much.
We're headed to Brazil in 2 weeks, so we'll see you guys all there at the next Arnold Classic.
Yeah, get some.
You can find him on the Diet Guru. What was it called? The Diet Guru?
The Grind.
Still taking my pictures after all these. Give me my medal back.
Grind.guru. I'm keeping the medal.
This guy's killing me. Thank you guys for coming.
Thanks again, guys. Give them another round of applause.
What's coming
Thanks.
up next? Something coming up next? What's coming up next? Anything? Nothing in here. If anybody wants to.